Hello, everybody. I hope everyone's having a good day. Today's video, I wanted to make a video about the current state of the game as far as Dead by Daylight is going. I've been playing the game a lot recently, and I've honestly been having some gripes with it and how it's played and how the game plays out most matches, as far as mostly killer as well as a little bit of survivor side. But this video is mostly going to be my gripes of the game, especially coming from the killer point of view. I wanted to talk about, there's four topics pretty much. The first one is, why did I start playing DBD? What made me enjoy the game at first? The second one is, what kept you playing the game after the initial honeymoon phase, right? So when you play a game, most new games, you enjoy the game because it's new, it's fresh. But what kept me playing the game after that new, fresh feeling? And then the third topic is, why is the game becoming more frustrating? Why is it becoming more boring to play? What is my current issues with the game that causes me to become upset with the way the game is currently played? And the fourth and final topic is, what do I feel like could change to make the game more enjoyable and much more fresh feeling than what we currently get right now? And that's going to be like kind of like the topics we're going to go through as far as the game goes, and I'm just going to take those piece by piece. So if you guys want to sit here and listen to me rant about this lovely game DBD, I hope you guys enjoy it. So let's get in the first one here. Why did I start playing Dead by Daylight, and what made me enjoy the game at first? I actually initially first bought Dead by Daylight in summer of 2016. I remember seeing it at, I don't remember, I think it was an E3 or something like that. I remember seeing the game, and I remember seeing the killer chasing down four survivors and they had to hide, and I just, when I saw that, I was like, dude, this is pretty sick, because I've always been like kind of like a competitive player. I come from a lot of FPS games. I like playing a lot of FPS. I still do, and I love the competitive aspect of 1v4, in the sense of, you need to, you kind of have to hunt down these people in the game and find them before they escape. And I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. I haven't really seen anything like it before. I know there's other games that are similar, but I haven't really seen anything much like that before until I saw DVD. And so I was pretty pumped to play the game, and I was waiting for it to come out. And I remember when it came out, I bought it. I think it was in June or July. There's an old video on my YouTube channel of me playing the game, playing some Billy, and definitely I knew how to play it back then, as you could tell. If you go back, I'll put a little bit of the footage up on the screen for you to see what was going on. A little bit of the camp, no problem though, okay? Because we were fresh, we were noobs, we didn't even know how to play the game, right? And so that's usually when you're always going to enjoy the game, and you always have those good memories from when you first play it. But I started playing this game back when it came out. Back when it came out on launch, and I didn't play it too much after then. I kind of got sidetracked into playing competitively in Counter-Strike, and then got an Overwatch and all that snazzy stuff. But I ended up coming back to Dead by Daylight again in 2017, playing a lot of Survivor. And I definitely enjoyed playing Survivor, as far as I like the skill ceiling as Survivor, because you were able to bring a killer and loot them, and it was supposed to be harder for Survivor in the sense of a 1v1 against the killer, right? And you're not supposed to have a very high chance of winning chases, and that's why I love playing Survivor. When I first started playing the game back in 2017, after I came back, and I loved being able to get chased, and have that thrill of, oh man, like I'm versing this guy, and this can be scary. But when you do successfully get away from a killer, or do a juke on them, or 360, or you mind game them, it feels really good, right? And that's the fun part of the game, especially when I was playing Survivor. That is the most enjoyable part of the game, as for me. Playing Survivor is the outplay potential and the 1v1, and that's where it's a lot of fun. I used to watch a lot of 72 Hours when he played the game back then, and that's usually who I got some of my juking skills from, as well as a man named Melky. Absolutely amazing survivor too. I watched them a lot, and I learned from them on how to play the juking style of survivor, and I actually enjoyed the game a lot in that aspect. And I still played killer every now and again back then, and I didn't really pay too much attention to it because I didn't play enough killer back then. I know it's always been kind of like back and forth of which side's better, which side's this, which side's that. And then more recently, back in almost about a year ago now, I got back into Dead by Daylight, and I took up the killer role. I still play Survivor, but I mostly took into playing killer this time around because I wanted to learn this side. I wanted to learn this side more since, I played a lot of Survivor in the past and it was fun, but, I just wasn't too much for me anymore. And so I got into more of playing the killer side. And learning the killer was a lot of fun. When I first got into it, I was playing and it was a lot of fun. And, obviously I was low rank at first, so I was kind of stomping my way up the ranks. And I got up to rank 1 pretty quickly, learning. I like to watch a lot of streamers and a lot of YouTubers playing games, and I like to learn from that. And so I watched a lot of like Otstarva and True Talent, and I learned from them. I learned from these guys to increase my skill level and see how the game's played at the highest level and try and mock that playstyle, imitate their playstyle until I get to my own. And you kind of learn how the game's played up there so you can compete with these guys quicker. Because I'm a very competitive person, like I said before, and I wanted to get up to the higher area. And so I got myself up to rank 1 with pretty quickly. I would say in a month or two of playing killer. And I started enjoying it. It's really fun to play killer, and you have this very sweaty sense of, oh, I want to kill all 4 people, and I want to play the best of my capability. I want to chase these survivors down, because mind gaming survivors and downing them in a chase it's very fun. I love hunting survivors down. It's a lot of fun. Nothing's more satisfying than outplaying as a killer, right? You mind game successfully and you make them walk into you, or you have a awesome perk build that you came up with. You're like, wow, I'm such a 5-head. Boom. You come up with this amazing perk build and you're like, oh, I want to see it in play. And when it works out, it feels amazing. Because you feel like you actually like did something. You feel like fucking Albert Einstein. You're like, ooh, nice, I just did this, and that's like that's what I love about killer, and what I really enjoy is the chase. Once again, I feel like both sides, for survivor and killer, it's the chase. That's the fun part of the game. We love the chase. That's where this game has the most depth, in my opinion, is the killer and the survivor one-on-one chasing. You got the survivor trying to run away and hide away from the killer, or juke them, and then you got the killer trying to hunt them down and outplay the survivor to get them down and get them on a hook. And that's what I love. That is why I started playing DBD. That's going to be the first section. That's going to be summing up for the first section. That's I would say, why I started playing DBD. And now after that, second phase. What kept you playing the game after the initial honeymoon phase? Okay, yeah, here we go. Okay, now, a part of the reason why I still loved playing DBD after, the first couple months of playing the game is, what does this game have to offer that can keep you coming back day in and day out? Now, one of these things I would say most people that play this game enjoy is the blood point and the grind system, the grind aspect of the game, the diversity of perks and the combinations that the perk combinations in the game that you can put together to make something cool that can, that no one else has done, that allows you to try out something new and make the game different in the way it's played because of the perks you bring. That is one of the enjoyable aspects of the game that I actually extremely enjoy. And I just, I love the fact when new killers and survivors come out, you get new sets of perks, and hoping that those perks have really unique combinations with other ones that currently exist in the game that allow the game to be played differently, and that adds so much more depth to the game, that allows us to explore and have more fun. And it keeps me coming back to try and think of something new, because that's where it's like, wow, you it's like, wow, you find something amazing and you pull it off in game, and it's so satisfying. It's a really good feeling. And I would say one of the other parts that keeps you coming back is, like I was talking about earlier, is the skill ceiling of the outplayability in the chase. It's one of the major aspects in the game, in my opinion, and if not the most important aspect of the game, is the chase of the one-on-one killer. The one-on-one killer survivor. You got the looping, the hiding, the 360s, the perk usage to stop them. This is the most important part of the game that makes it fun. There's generators, you have the gens, you have the whole hiding, you have all this. You can play immersive, you can rush out the generators. Everyone has their own way of playing the game, right? But I would definitely say, for the majority of us that play the game, survivor and killer, the part where we have the most fun is in the chase. And that is definitely has to be the number one thing. That's what keeps me coming back and wanting to play more. Is always a different feeling. That's why we love PvP games. We come back because the person we're versing, we adapt, we get better, and it just like it keeps going higher and higher and higher. And it just unlocks new things to learn and do in the game that weren't necessarily there at first, because people didn't have the knowledge at first, such as things like window teching and all those kind of fun things where you can moonwalk backwards and as killer and hide your red stain. Those little things that come from people playing the game and figuring out what is the best way to play, and like the most best way to out mind game your opponent, kind of thing, right? And then I would say the other thing that keeps us coming back, right, is the new DLCs. The DLCs diversify the gameplay a ton. They stop monotony and the potential for killers and survivors to add new game mechanics and ways to play, right? That's why we love playing. Is every 3 months or so they come out with a new killer and or survivor. And they add to the game. Maybe new maps come along with it, and usually with the new killers and survivors, especially the killers, we get new killer mechanics, and the new killer and every killer has their unique ability, and that's one of the reasons why I love Killer 2, is every killer is unique in the sense of what they do and what their power is, and as well as Survivor, adding in new perks to pull off and combo with others to make the game more fun. Once again, it's refreshing to have these new mechanics / perks in the game. And it is kind of like, to end why I keep playing. This is mostly why I keep playing, is those three subjects there. There's a part. Excuse me while I trip over my tongue. But I would say those are the three main reasons why I still keep playing the game. I love it. I love it for those aspects, and those are super enjoyable, and those are the reasons why I keep coming back and wanting to play the game. And now to the main part I really wanted to talk about today. I wanted to talk about why it's becoming more frustrating and why I wanted to make this video in the first place. This game is a lot of fun. Like I said before, I was telling you guys why I enjoy the game and why I keep playing it and what got me into it at first. But now I want to talk about why it's becoming frustrating. Even with those things, I still want to keep coming back and playing, but something makes it frustrating when I come back and play, and it almost makes me not want to play it because of certain things. And I have a list down here of why I would say the game can kind of just, it kind of gets repetitive and old. And I wrote these down here, and we can start off here with I'm going to start off with the pace of the game. The pace of the game right now just seems a little too fast, in my opinion. I know most games don't always end up being 5 minutes, but there's matches that end up being 5 minutes. There's matches that end up being 20 minutes. Very rarely do they end up 20 minutes, and very rarely do they end up like 3 minutes. I would say the average length of a DBD match right now, in my opinion, is about 5 to 10 minutes. And this is at the highest rank 1, of course. And I think there's a couple problems on why the pace is so quick. I think the objectives in the game can be done way too quickly for both sides, right? I think a killer can end the game quickly, just as a survivor can end a game quickly. Now, this is, once again, this is coming more from a killer's point of view. I do play survivor, so I do understand both sides, but this is coming from more of a killer's point of view. When I play killer, there's times where I take about 30 seconds at the start of a match. Right, you spawn in and you got 30 seconds to the start of the match. You're looking for a survivor. Sometimes you don't even find a survivor in 30 seconds. You walk around the map, you find someone. Let's say you find them in 30 seconds, right? And then you take a chase with them, and depending on where you catch them, where you find the survivor, you may find them in a spot where it's a weak part of the map, or you may find them in a very strong part of the map. And the problem is when I take this chase with this one survivor, and let's say I find them in a weak part of the map, which is more beneficial, towards the killer. You find them and there's almost no pallets nearby and no windows. That's going to be pretty rare, but sometimes it does happen. And say I get a free hit on them at the start of the game, and I want to take a chase with them because I see they have a med kit in their hands. So I take a chase with a survivor, and let's say they make it to the shack. Should I chase with the shack? Probably not. But once again, this is where I said I really enjoy the part of the game where the chase, right? I enjoy the chase. So I take a chase with this person, and say it takes, decent survivors, they can run the shack alone for, I would say, at least 20 seconds. And that's if, it's played perfectly from the killer's point of view of mind gaming and trying to get the window blocked off really fast. And next thing you know, you get them to drop the shack pallet, which is, let's be honest, that's never gonna fucking happen, and you're about to swing on someone, right, and they have dead hard. So you wait out the dead hard, because most killers do, but they make it to a pallet because of the dead hard. So they dead hard into another pallet, and you loop, and then it's a small weak loop, and you down them. But that whole time you wanted to chase that one survivor, 3 other survivors are on the map, and if you're lucky, they may be on the same gen. That gen's already fucking done. That gen's already done if they were all on the same gen. Now, if they're not on the same gen, they were all on 3 different generators. And you chase this one person for a decent amount of time, because that's the way the chases work in this game. There's pallets and there's looping mechanics, so survivors don't get insta down and it's not boring for them. But the problem is you chase one. If you take one chase with a survivor and they play well enough in a decent area, most of the time, if 3 other survivors are doing the objective, which there's no problem with doing the objective in the game, right? That's the objective. 3 gens can be done at once at the start of the game. And this is if a killer has pop or ruin or anything like that to stop gen regression, or to give gen regression to the game. You won't even get to use pop on those 3 generators, or you won't even get to scare the survivors off generators, right? And this is coming in, people are going to say, oh, you shouldn't have chased the guy at the shack. I understand that. It's not healthy to chase the guy at the shack in the way the game currently works, because if I chase the guy at the shack, that happens. 3 generators pop. And so I hit this guy that has a med kit, right? And then I let him go when I get the free hit on him at the start. So we're going back to the start of the chase. I hit him and I leave, and I go to generators and I check generators. This game is no longer about chasing a survivor and hunting them down. It's about protecting the generators. The killer is no longer a kind of hunter. He's kind of like a protector. He's just trying to protect the gens. And I would say, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself here, but I would say that's what the game has become. When I play killer, and if I have no gen regression perks on, I'm like, oh man, I'll be on a killer, right? On a new killer, I'm leveling up with blood points, and I'll be like, and I have like no gen regression perks on him yet. I'm like, oh man, I'm not gonna win. Like that's my mindset going in. Like, oh man, I'm not gonna win. I have pop 1. Maybe I get it off a couple times, and that's it. You know what I mean? I don't like the fact that as killer, I have to bring 2 to 3 perks just to stop generators from being done too quickly. I think that's boring and and that's very unhealthy for the game that has so many perks. There's like 6 perk pages for survivor and killer. I think there's 5 full perk pages right now for killer, and I think there's almost 6 full perk pages for survivor. And I think it's unhealthy that as a killer, I have to mostly bring the same like 2 to 3 perks just for gen regression, just so I can have an enjoyable match and chase survivors and have a good time, especially when there's so much variety that I want to test out and try and enjoy. Like, it feels horrible, and I hate to get off DVD here, but it had the same thing kind of happened in Overwatch for me, where I was playing the game and I got 30 heroes in the game, but I can only play 2 in the role I'm playing because those are the only good ones. If I play anything else, it's just a loss. That's not healthy for the game that has variety, but that you can't use variety because things are way too weak for the current state of the game. Now, getting back on DVD, that I think that's my current issue is okay. I'm bored out of my mind over here because I'm playing a game where I gotta bring three Jhin regression perks. Okay, let's get back to the chase so I can talk about the gameplay, the pace of the game a little more, right? So let's go back to where I hit the guy and I leave him and I go back to him, and now okay, I'm back at the survivor and I left the survivor and I went to the Jhin. Let's say there's 2 people working on a generator, right? Let's say I have like discordance or something, and I go to the Jhin that I see 2 people working on. It's about 75%. And so what am I gonna do? I'm probably gonna hit one guy off the generator, and he's gonna run away. The other guy's gonna run too, and I have 2 options here. I can chase the injured guy, or and hit him once and get him down, or I can chase the healthy guy, because the healthy guy, if I don't chase him, he's just gonna go right back to the Jhin, right? But the injured guy, he's going to go right back to the Jhin too. So what do? There's 2 people here. The Jhin's almost completed. We're at 75-80%. Okay, I chase the healthy guy because he's going to be less scared. Now, if you're versing good survivors, they're probably going to be running like resilience or something, right? I'm going to go chase the healthy guy away, and he runs to the nearest loop. The injured guy, he's going to run right back to the Jhin. He's going to finish the Jhin behind me. There's this issue with the game where I as a killer can't take a chase with one survivor without feeling like I'm gonna lose everything on the map. And I think this is like the major problem with me, is I want to be able to run around and chase survivors just as much as survivors want to be chased by a killer, because that's the skill depth, that's the core of the games, this chase and looping mechanic of survivor and killer. But that is not allowed from a killer standpoint, because if you do that, if you do chase them, most of the time you will lose most of your objectives on the map. The only time it is okay to chase survivors is when you realize they're in like a weak loop and you need to get them down quickly, and they're injured and they make a mistake and you get them down. Most of the times it's not the case though. Let's move on a little bit to some of the other things. I'm sorry, I'm kind of dragging on there. Let's say perks. I have a current issue with perks, and this is both killer and survivor. I think there's perks that are unhealthy for both sides of the game. We'll talk about some of the stuff that killers can use that can be kind of unfun for a survivor's point of view, right? I know a major one that a lot of people dislike that killers use is NOED. Personally, as a survivor, I don't think NOED's that big of a deal. Just cleanse totems, forehead. I know, it's kind of dumb. But NOED is kind of a crutch perk, which is my major issue as far as perks go for both sides, is crutch perks. I don't like perks that give a certain side a advantage for free without any work being put in. There's like no skill involved with them. They just kind of give the other side a freebie for no reason. They just, they're just freebie perks that you use, and like you get lucky with them, or you use them and you're just like, okay, you got them because you had this perk. There's no skill, there's no outplay. It was just you had this perk, so you win in that scenario, which I think is very shitty and unhealthy for the game. And as far as like, let's say survivors go, there's I would say there's 2 perks that mainly come to mind as far as crutch goes, and it's Dead Hard and DS. Decisive Strike. Going up against these perks, you see them all the time. Dead Hard rank 1. I'm gonna be honest. I would say I see Dead Hard in more than 70 to 80% of my matches. Dead Hard is being used on more than one survivor. It is a perk that is always used, and you get used to it. You kind of don't swing, but it is very frustrating to play against, especially when you outplay a survivor and then they just press E to win. They press E, they get distance, they fast vault the window, or they press E, they get to a pallet, and boom, they're there. It's very excuse me. It is a very unskillful perk, in my opinion, in the way it is used and how unfun it can be to versus killer, especially because you may have outplayed a survivor, you get them down to a loop, and they press E, and next thing you know, the chase lasts for another 40 seconds, which for killer, let's be honest, it hurts the killer. And, you know, I wouldn't even say there's a problem with just Dead Hard itself. It's the fact that the game goes by so quickly if you take a chase. So when they do get a successful Dead Hard off, the chases last longer, but the pace of the game is so quick that if you keep taking that chase, that perk is killer in the current state of the game because of how fast objectives can get done. And DS, don't even get me started. Don't even get me started. DS is a broken game mechanic. I know it's supposed to be anti-tunnel. I understand. I understand that some killers do tunnel. I've versed plenty of tunneling killers and camping killers that want to take you off the hook. I understand. But this perk is abused in every game. Nothing feels worse as a killer than chasing someone, downing them, hooking them, and then going over to another guy and downing him, and he still has DS. Even though he was just repairing a generator, he walked around the whole map, and this guy still has DS, and you quote-unquote tunnel them because they still have DS up, right? And it is stopping a killer from doing his job because even when they don't tunnel. I think that's the biggest issue is even when you don't tunnel as killer, you still get DS'd all the time. And so it forces killers to slug. And what do survivors hate? What do survivors always complain about? Survivors complain about getting slugged. I hate getting slugged as survivors sometimes too. I understand it. Though. And you know, survivors complain about it, but what else are we supposed to, what else are you supposed to do as a killer? You pick them up and you eat the DS and they run away and they get away for free, and now you just lost all that pressure you just got by hitting them down. It is very unfun to verse, and I think it is another very unhealthy perk for the game. There's little skill to DS, and once again, it is another crutch perk that someone hits a button and they get away for free. There's no skill involved. It's just a get out of jail free card. And there's a couple more perks. I don't want to keep going on about perks. I could make one video for each perk I hate in this game. I could just go on about it. Okay, we'll move on to the next part though. We have, okay, here's my next one is if you want to take chases in this game, you're punished instead of just guarding gens and getting free hits. Yes, we kind of already talked about this, but let's go on about it just a little more. Is yes, if you want to take a chase, you're kind of punished in this game in the sense of chasing someone from a healthy state and chasing them down, especially if they're in a strong loop and you're versing a good survivor and they know how to loop it. You know, you're kind of punished in the sense of you take a chase with someone and generators get done, which is how it should be, right? There's trade-offs for taking chase, but but I feel like it is unbalanced in the sense of taking a chase, like the objective of a killer is killing survivors, and the objectives of the survivors is doing generators. But it takes longer for a killer to chase and down survivors, right? 12 hooks to kill them all. That's every hook. That's hooking them all once, or hooking them all for all their health states. And it takes longer for a killer to do that, way longer for a killer to do that than for survivors to do generators. And once again, there's exceptions for games, right? You're gonna have games where it's the opposite, right? You get a lucky game where you get a good play on them, or you're not versing the best capability of survivors. But once again, this happens in a lot of my matches where I take a chase with a survivor, and next thing you know, 3 gens get done because they're all working on different ones. Not a very good feeling. It sucks because I want to take a chase, but I can't take a chase because of the current state of the game. And there's another one. This is coming from the killer side. For survivors from killers, there's very unfun game mechanics as far as playing survivor goes, that are killers have, such as Spirit. I understand Spirit. I think Spirit is very boring to verse as a survivor. There's only guessing. There's no skill involved. There's a little bit of skill, but the amount of skill involved with the chase between a Spirit and a survivor is very low, and it's very unfun for a survivor to play against. When you're playing survivor and the killer stops and you have no idea what they're doing, you're like, okay, it is unrewarding and it is unfun. I think that is unhealthy for the game, and I still think Spirit should be changed for the better. I think one of the quick fixes, just quickly, for Spirit you can change about her is you can make her phasing directional sound, so you understand where she's coming from, and then like an increased and lower audio for how far away she is in her phasing. I think it would make it much more enjoyable without completely changing her power up. I think that would add a level of skill to a survivor in chasing, to have good audio and hear where the spirit's coming from. I think it would help a lot and be much more beneficial to the survivor, and it would make the chase interaction with survivor and spirit much more fun. And there's other killers that have certain things that can be very unfun to verse. I don't want to go too in depth about them, but yes, there's unfun mechanics as far as killers go that survivors have to verse that is very unhealthy for the game, because that's not how the game wants to be played. And then the last thing I want to touch on in the sense of frustration in this game, it is the player base itself. I know you can't really change this. I know I have some of these issues too, but you get there. One of the biggest issues I have in this game is people giving up from the start of the game. You have people that you'll hook immediately. They'll have an unlucky start. You spawn close to them as killer, right, as a survivor, and you chase them, you hit them, right, and let's say on their screen they get hit, but they drop the pallet, right? Sometimes there's server lag, ping, that's nothing that we can really fix too much in the game. That's just a part of playing internet online games. It's gonna happen. But let's say you hit them once at a pallet, and on their screen it looked like they dropped the pallet before you hit them, and they still get hit anyway, right? And they run, they're injured, right? And you chase them down, and you hit them because they slow volt the window, and they thought they were gonna fast volt it, but they took a bad angle, and so you hit them and you down them, and they're like, you know what? I don't feel like playing this game. This game's dumb. They're going to complain, and then they either DC or they kill themselves on a hook, and now the game is now ruined. The game is now ruined just because of that. One survivor will leave the game. It is possible for the survivors to win still, but one survivor leaving the game more than not ruins the rest the game for not only the other survivors but also the killer. I don't enjoy going in as a killer and just shit stomping survivors and getting out. That's not fun. I like actually versing a worthy adversary, and that's where the real fun mechanics come in, right? So this is one of the biggest issues I feel like this game has, is people just giving up. And DC mechanic isn't really going to help, because people can just kill themselves on hook or just AFK and alt tab and go watch a YouTube video, right? So it's not going to necessarily fix. It's people have to kind of fix themselves and get over this. It's just one thing I just wanted to touch on, because it happens so much that it ruins a lot of games. I know some people wait in queues for longer. As a killer, a rank 1 killer, I get queues very fast because it feels like most people don't want to play rank 1 killer. Don't really blame them sometimes, because the way the game is currently. But yes, it happens a lot. There's a couple other things with player base. I don't really have a problem with toxicity, whatever. I think being toxic is fun. I think, crap talking, shit talking other people, that's competitive games. It's been in my life all the time. Every game I've ever played, I've been a shit talker. I've been shit talked. It's part of the game. It's part of the competitive environment. I don't have a problem with it. If you have a problem with that, I think you just need to grow up a little bit and get over it. It's all in fun at the end of the day. No one's getting hurt. It's just kind of how competitive games are. So, grow a sack, I guess, if you don't like that. Other than that, though, player base, that's my biggest issue, is the DCing. And there's one other thing where they kind of abuse unfun game mechanics, going back to perks and killers that can be played, and perks that survivors can take. Not only are these perks, the perks at the core of the perk is broken and unfun, it's a crutch perk. I think another big problem is, yes, these perks should be fixed, but survivors, they see these things, and killers, they see these killers, and they bring these every game because why not? And I also think the community can be better on that, because they kind of ruin their own game with what they bring into the match. It is not fun to verse these things every match as a survivor. Survivors don't want to verse spirit every match. Killers don't want to verse DS brand new parts every match. It's not enjoyable. It's very unenjoyable. Versing them every now and again, it happens. Okay, whatever, I'll get over it. The problem is you verse them so much that it just gets old and you don't want to verse it anymore. And that's kind of like, I could go much more in depth about my current gripes on the game. Yes, I can go much more in depth about it. I'm not going to go into them too much. I'm not going to go into it too much more. I would say that would be overall my, what I have, my current issues as far as killer goes, or as far as the game goes, with some of my frustrations. A lot of frustrations. I think the main thing I wanted to hit on though is the pace of the game. It just goes by too quick, and when you're playing killer, it's very stressful and it's unfun because you're guarding generators and you're not chasing. And I think because of that unhealthiness for the killer, not chasing and wanting to guard gens, it's also unfun for survivors because now the survivors don't get chases. They just get hit and then they run away and heal, and it's the same thing over and over again. We're not taking chases, we're just guarding generators because that's the way the game has to be played for the killer, which therefore makes the game boring for survivors. So overall, that's why my biggest dislikes with the game currently and why I'm frustrated with it. Now, as far as fixing the game and what we can do to improve this game and what can make this a overall more fun experience for both sides of the game as far as killer and survivor goes. I don't have a whole lot of fixes. I'm not the best game developer in the world. I'm not the biggest brainest man here, but I am smart enough to know that there should be a couple new fixes to the game. I always talked about these on stream, and I've talked about them to other people on what can make this game more enjoyable. As far as the overall taste of the game, as I love the current state of the game. Sorry, I shouldn't say current state of the game. I love it. Kappa fucking Ross, right? No. But the current way the game is, it's not the worst. And they keep, when they release these new things like killers and stuff, it's always fun, right? But I think that what we need to touch on, it's not just reworking perks and reworking killers to change the game up and make it more fun. I think this game could use a actual overhaul on the core mechanic of the game. And what is the core mechanic of the game? There's two core mechanics. There's the killer chasing the survivors and trying to kill them, and the survivors doing generators and trying to get out. Now, I think the way that we could solve a part of this issue in the game is not just increasing generator speed, because survivors, like I said, the fun part of the game for survivors is getting chased. It's not sitting on generators and holding mouse 1. I can go on my phone and play freaking any cookie clicker game I want and sit there and AFK my brain. I don't want to play this game to AFK and hold mouse 1. I want to play to get smoking the ankles, baby. That's what we play for. You know what I mean? So, what can we do to fix that? I think that adding other objectives in the game would increase the amount of fun that this game has, that this game has to offer. Now, in the sense of game mechanics, let's say survivors, they do a generator, right? Survivors, they do a generator, and there's 5 gens. They can do all 5 gens, and then they open the exit gate. What can we do to increase the length of the match, but not be so unbearable that survivors can never escape all out alive? This is, I would say, one of the biggest things I have is adding something that you can do after all 5 gens are done, or after a couple gens are done, you need to fix something else or repair something else to power the generators back or get the generators back on and go to the exit gate and open them, right? Let's say, for example, right? Once again, I don't have the best ideas, but let's say we take thing where you power the generators, right? You fix them, the generators are fully repaired. But after repairing the generators fully, they need gasoline to work, right? Oh, okay, so you need to go get like a gasoline can somewhere, and then you need to go pour the gasoline can in the thing. I don't have all the game ideas. I don't have a whole freaking list written out before me about what you could do. This is just something that I've thought of just simply that could add more fun to the game and less monotony for survivors, instead of just increasing gen repair speed, and also adding more objectives for survivors to do so the games don't get blown through immediately. And what you could do with that is, and at this point you can make it to where certain things aren't as broken anymore because the games last a little longer, so it doesn't feel shitty for killers to chase people that have dead hard and eat DSs because the game's gonna last a little longer, and now it's not as bad. You know what I mean? So I know there's probably plenty of flaws in my statements in this video. I know I probably contradicted myself a couple times here and there. I understand. I'm not perfect. I didn't really write down a whole script, for me to read from. This was me talking off the top of my head with a couple key points for me to touch on. I just wanted to really talk about this today because I love DBD. I love the game. It's a lot of fun. The developers do such a good job for this game. And, you know, overall, why I got into the game, it was enjoyable, the chasing survivors and hunting them down, as well as, you know, running away from killers. That's what's fun, right? And I want the game to get back to this stage of being fun and enjoyable in that sense, and not having to be boring and monotonous of guarding the generators and survivors just pushing generators so they don't get fucking 4K slugged, and, you know, and then killers don't have to get gen rushed out every game because, you know, survivors, they don't want the opposite happening, right? So I think, you know, overall, this is what I wanted to talk about. I appreciate anyone that wanted to sit in and listen. I hope you guys learned a little bit here. I'm sorry if I spoke a little poorly or had missteps in my vocals, but overall, this is what I wanted to touch on. I appreciate everyone that wanted to sit and watch and listen to what I had to say about the game. Once again, I love DBD. I love the game. The community is awesome. I'm glad to stream and make videos for it. This game is unique and very fun. I just wish that, you know, there was a couple things in this game that we could change to improve it for the better for both sides. And thank you guys once again for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed. Take it easy, and as always, easy. I'll see you guys later.